This video is going to talk to you guys about these two concepts: planar analysis, contour, and cross contour. Planar analysis we're going to do in real time with this guy, and then I'm going to show you contour and cross contour and the differences between the two. So planar analysis comes down to two things: looking at your object and deciding which sides face which direction. If you're looking at an apple, that's kind of tricky, but all objects have a top and a bottom. Sides are very different depending on the object you're looking at, but if you were to have to use words to describe what a banana is, the closest shape or form that I can think of is a cylinder that basically tapers on the bottom and the top. I mean, the top of the stem of a banana is basically a cylinder, but it has like flattened sides, right? How many of you have never studied a banana as closely as you're going to study in my class? So I'm going to do a really quick contour drawing of a banana, which is basically finding the edges, not just the outer edges, but the inner edges that are almost defined by the bends and little facets of this banana. And you can see like pretty clearly, this banana's getting really bruised, but you can see the vertical lines that go following around the form of this to create a visual structure that we're going to be able to draw pretty relatively easily. So if you do a quick gesture sketch of a banana, this is really hard to do through drawing on a screen. Look how loose it starts out. And then I get more refined. So I'm going to study the contours, the edges of this banana, which are essentially lines that curve and define the perimeter. It's fun to draw and hold a camera at the same time. There's my contour. There's other contour lines happening. You see that clear demarcation between the shadow on the left and the highlight on the right? That is a contour. So I'm going to add that contour in right here. It starts actually up here on the banana, and it bends and then goes forward and down until it meets the stem at the bottom as well. So that's a really, really basic contour drawing. It's not just the outer edge, it's the inner edges that you can see and define. Not all objects have these very obviously. Now I'm going to do cross contour lines. These go literally across the form and describe the edges, the texture, the surface of that form. Now a banana is a really smooth form, so that's kind of easy. If it's a flattish edge, that's going to be more of a straight line. If it was super bumpy, those lines would get curvy, they'd get zigzaggy, they'd change in line quality. So surface quality determines line quality. Now, if you were drawing an actual cylinder, which I'm going to do right here, a cylinder is a rounded object. The contours of a cylinder would just be straight lines, right? So you're going to just follow the form of that cylinder, but then the cross contours would go across the form, and they would almost mimic the top and the bottom. This is obviously a cylinder that is viewed slightly from above, which is why I can see into it. This is another really, really helpful thing to think about when drawing any object, is how can I simplify it into an object that I can easily identify and draw. So knowing that you're looking onto this object from above, those little cylinders that, or those little ovals that you can identify that are mimicking the top and the bottom of the contours here are going to help you draw a realistic form and reinforce the idea that this is a three-dimensional object, not a flat object. So I know this is still in the gestural phase, it's very loose, but this is contour and cross contour. Contours describe the form, cross contours can describe the form as well, but also in a way that is much more descriptive. It can describe surface quality, texture, things like that. So let's go back to our banana. I'm going to go back and forth between these two, so be patient. So the banana is, if I were to just run my finger along it this way, it's smooth. That little edge there is very flat, but it's not so flat that it's sharp. This is not a sharp edge. So it's a slightly curved line here. It bumps where this little, I'll show you a little bit better in the light. There's a curve there. It's not a total flat edge. it bumps a little bit where that contour meets it, and then it goes downward. So if I literally follow my finger across, you see how it goes up, bumps over, and then across. That's literally what I'm going to do here. I'm going to draw that as a line. So right here, it curves only slightly, not super curvy like a cylinder, flattish curve, and then it bumps up where that line is, and then it curves slightly downward. Okay? So I sped up the process here to show you. I started here, then I expanded downward and upward with my cross contour lines. And I'm showing you that little bump that I created along this line is really descriptive of that curve there, how it's not a super sharp curve. It's not like this line goes boom, boom, and hits it sharply, so because that would imply that that surface quality is very sharp. So a soft line will imply a soft transition in planes. And I wanted to show you this little drawing I did next to it. This is a banana without drawing the planes, without doing the planar analysis. Notice the difference. It's nice. It describes this rounded banana shape or form here, but it isn't as specific as not as specific as a real banana might be, right? So there's one last thing I want to show you that's really fun to do when you are doing a cross contour drawing. You can keep the contours included. It confines the edges. It's really nice. But if you do the cross contours specifically enough, with as descriptively as possible, then you actually don't need the contours as much as you think you would. You don't need the outlines. So I'm going to show you what that looks like here. You can get a piece of paper, a scrap piece of paper, and go up against the contour and use it as a mask to create really beautiful implied edges. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. The difference between an implied edge and an actual edge, or implied line and an actual line, and how you can be really creative with the line quality that you choose to use. Obviously this is still our pencil sketch, but I came over here on that little cylinder, which all of a sudden, because I've chosen to imply this edge here, I still see the boundary of that cylinder, which now to me looks like a can, and it's more specific, more particular because of the line quality I've chosen to use. Now I got a little Sharpie and I got a little messy here, but notice how my line isn't perfect. I didn't use a ruler necessarily. I wanted it to look like a rusty old can, so my line quality is wavery. You can see sort of the imperfection in that. And then because of using this cross contour implied edge here, instead of dragging that line all the way across, it looks like the can has a little bit of texture, even has a little bit of light and dark shadow, right? Which is not part of this assignment necessarily, but if you really love value and you want to include a light source, the more dense your lines are together, they're going to start implying darker values, and the more spaced out they are, they're going to start implying lighter values. So that's a decision you get to make. This project can be very individual to you, and I want to see you playing around with line quality and textural decisions, as well as utilizing that planar analysis. But you get to decide if you want to include outlines, which would be contours. You get to decide your objects, and you get to decide line quality and the inclusion of value and implied edges. So have a blast.